Oh, by the way, my wife texted me that your beard is impressive.
Thank you.
She's right behind me playing The Sims.
It's pretty great. I'm pretty proud of it. I have this, was Wolfman Jack, this part here is blonder than everything else.
Well, so is mine. I don't know if you can see
yeah.
mine.
Oh, yeah.
I get the Wolfman Jack thing, too. And, part of me thought about, shaving it to make it look a little tighter to my face, but since mine grows down, I'm afraid that if I bring it too far in, it's just going to be, mutton chops and a wispy mustache.
So awesome.
Yeah, I guess majority of this, we've talked about this. Majority of this beard started as a neck beard.
It just grew up.
Pretty much.
I have the bozo afro thing just on my chin.
Well, I like it. Amanda apparently likes
it.
She's checking it out from afar while she plays The Sims. Back to topic. Or start the topic.
Should we actually start the show?
Yeah, we probably should. Say hi, Amanda. Say hi, Amanda.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, how are Sims?
He asked how the Sims are.
Good.
Awesome.
All right.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Vyers, and with me, as always, is one punk that's still debating whether it was 5 shots that were fired or 6.
Nick Richards.
It's funny, as I go back and re-listen to some of our episodes sometimes, because anytime I get something, a new piece of audio equipment, I have to see how our show sounds because I'm vain as
Sure.
I'm continually impressed at how I never intended to, but I have a way that I hit that intro every time.
Oh, yeah, completely. Your cadence is... And then when I do my solo episodes, I feel kind of subconsciously compelled to try and match that.
Your newest one amused me because it felt like someone just threw you in a room and turned on the microphone. You're like, oh, hi.
I was so out of sorts. I don't know why.
Well, because I made you do an episode last minute.
I was like, let's talk about things.
I enjoyed that episode though. Did you? We listened to it in the new car.
Nice.
And
after you leveled up.
Yeah. And I like the love for the Muppets on there because I was obsessed with that soundtrack when it came out.
Oh, it was so good. It's Flight of the Conchords. Well, half of
yeah.
Flight of the
Conchords, when that movie came out, I was in college and I was taking the bus every morning, so I'd have it loaded onto my iPod, and I would be dancing to the bus stop. I'm sure anyone who watched was like, "Why is that fat kid dancing?" And and to set the image straight, I was usually wearing a horror movie T-shirt with ripped jeans.
I hope when you walked into the room at the end of that song, you went right in front of me and brought everyone to an awkward silence.
There might have been once or twice. I walked into class because movie logic means I would make that song last an entire 45-minute bus ride.
Yeah,
of course.
Thank you, Jump Cuts.
Yeah. And then there's one movie on there I never even heard of, but you intrigued me because the score was so good. The first one you picked, I cannot think of what it was.
Ravenous.
I've never even heard of Ravenous.
You will love Ravenous.
It is now on my shame list.
So good.
So there's that. Yeah, I don't know. I was really happy with it. You played some Willy Wonka, and that's also one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Also a movie that scared the out of me as a kid.
Oh yeah, it is unsettling and bizarre in the best way.
It's one of those movies that every time I've watched it growing up in different portions of my life, I've gravitated to something else.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I loved it, and I don't know why I did, because in a lot of ways, some of those older family films bored me as a kid.
Yeah.
But that one did not. And then as I got older, I was trying to do I don't like these type of movies anymore, but I still couldn't deny how much I love Willy Wonka. I don't know, it always stuck with me. But
Gene Wilder is so great for that role. I as much as I advocate for like giving remakes a chance, that is one that I am guilty of not following my own advice on. Is I cannot get behind the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
It's not bad if you go in with no expectations.
Yeah, but I couldn't. I went in with this isn't going to be as good. The thing I will
say I hate about that remake, because there's a lot of things I like about it. I think production design is good. I like that they brought some more elements from the book in, because surprisingly the Roald Dahl's family prefers that movie to the original. Yeah. Because it has the cynicism that the book did. The songs were the worst part about that movie.
Okay.
But that's just me. Because you can't.
Yeah, I don't remember them very well offhand.
No, that's probably for the better. But we are not here to talk about Willy Wonka, Nick.
We're not?
No.
Damn it.
You watched the wrong movie. Because on this episode, we'll be discussing 1971's Dirty Harry. Directed by Don Siegel and written by the writing couple of Harry and Rita Fink, Dirty Harry tells the story of Inspector Harry Callahan and his pursuit of a madman calling himself the Scorpio Killer. Callahan is a hard-nosed cop that cares little for the rights of the accused, but instead stands for the rights of the victim. Callahan has a negative reputation, but it never shadows the work he does. It's a dirty job, but Harry Callahan is there to take care of it. Clint Eastwood stars in this genre-defining role as the titular Dirty Harry, but along for the ride is Harry Guardino, Reni Santoni, John Vernon, and Andy Robinson as the sinister Scorpio.
This is about a movie about a couple of killers, Harry Callahan and a homicidal maniac. The one with the badge is Harry.
Oh!
There were a lot of reasons they called him Dirty Harry. And he kept inventing new ones.
Don't pass out of him yet. No.
That was a pretty good pinch you made yesterday. The chief was pleased.
He was, huh?
Yeah, he really was. He wanted me to tell you well done.
I'll tell you how deeply moved I am.
How do you like that? I pass along a compliment? You could at least be a little bit polite. It might not even kill you to say thanks.
Much rather say thanks to a raise.
Hey, Harry, check communications. Something from Chicago. A gun nut.
I'm putting somebody with you.
Well, you know what happens to the guys that I've worked with. Dietrich's still in the hospital with a bullet in his gut, and Fanducci's dead.
Now, you're working with Gonzalez, or you're not working. Now, that's straight from the 5th floor. You got it?
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Doesn't it drive your wife crazy?
Nope.
You mean she got used to it?
No, she never did, really.
Well, what then?
She's dead.
Oh, please forgive me.
She was driving home late one night and a drunk crossed the center line. There's no reason for it, really.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Look, I want you to tell Chico that I understand, him quitting. I think he's right. This is no life for you two.
Why do you stay in it then?
I don't know. I really don't.
Send Inspector Callahan in.
Mr. Mayor, Inspector Callahan.
All right. Let's have it.
Have what?
Your report. What have you been doing?
Oh, well, for the past 3/4 of an hour, I've been sitting on my ass in your outer office, waiting on you.
Damn it all, Harry. That's the mayor you're talking to.
Clint Eastwood. Detective Harry Callahan. You don't assign him
Stop!
to murder cases. You're just turn him loose.
What the hell is he doing up there?
That's my favorite one I've written thus far.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's concise.
Yes.
It had the word titular in it, which makes me giggle like a
titular is
middle
hard.
schooler.
I never know if I'm saying it right.
I'm a child.
I am too. But this was on my shame list, very surprisingly, because this checks all my boxes. The type of movie I want to see. I'm really in, because it's essentially a big budget exploitation film in a lot of ways.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'd buy that.
For the little bit I know about the sequels, while they become a lot more violent, this one is a lot creepier because of the character is wet. Because the thing that I noticed about Scorpio, he doesn't feel like a movie villain. Whereas from what I've gathered from some of the sequels, is they feel like a more generic movie bad guy, like a Hans Gruber type of thing. Where Scorpio was frightening. In a lot of ways, this movie felt like a horror movie at times.
He was actually one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk about on the episode, because I really like that. First off, we see him. There's a little bit of mystery early on, but they don't shy away from cutting to the villain and spending some time on him.
Yeah.
For a film that is about finding the killer, like, we get to spend some time with him. We don't go deep into his character because he's just kind of like, Joker-esque, crazy for crazy's sake. But the way the actor portrays him, I really enjoyed for this type of film.
No,
exactly. And I think that speaks to what you were saying about how it's, in a sense, a big budget exploitation film, that he wasn't just that stereotypical killer. He was just kind of like whimsically insane.
Yeah. Like, what I liked about it was, at first I thought the movie was going, because it's definitely inspired by the Zodiac Killer to an extent.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, the Zodiac Killer is still at large at this time.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be like, a mystery for the entire film, and then you find out at the end that who it is. But I like that concurrently you got to see the killer and what his tactics were. He kind of did feel like a Batman villain for that reason.
Yeah.
And one thing I was thinking about that's really fascinating to me is, the Zodiac Killer, who this is loosely inspired by, was never caught. But it's always been said that the little they can gather about him was that he was vain enough that anytime someone made a movie about him, he'd go see it.
Right. Did you see I think it's the most recent one, a few years back, the Jake Gyllenhaal?
No, I had not seen it.
Zodiac. I saw it when it came out. I don't recall much about it, but I remember enjoying it.
There's a movie though I don't necessarily think you should see it because it's not a very good movie, but there's a movie you should research called The Zodiac Killer.
Well, I'll be seeing you. Thanks a lot. Got a lot of things to do.
Now there's a really nice guy.
That was made around the same at the time the Zodiac Killer was at large, because the guy made it knowing that the Zodiac Killer would come see the movie and
to try to
catch him. Yes, and
wow.
He had pictures up of, because he honestly thought he knew who the Zodiac Killer was, and to this day, this filmmaker thinks he knows who it is.
Wow.
And he had a picture up of the guy he thought it was, and had some goons hiding in the theater, and if that guy ever showed up, they had to pull him into the bathroom and beat out of him.
That's amazing.
I wish this was fake, but it's all 100% true.
See, there's your movie.
Yeah.
Don't make another Zodiac Killer movie. Make a movie about the filmmaker that was trying to catch the Zodiac Killer by making a Zodiac Killer movie.
It's all about it's like Argo.
Yeah.
But no, I really liked this movie, and then as I was watching it, I was like, why haven't I seen this? But I will say, we always say, if you listen to this show and you're not expecting spoilers, you're in the wrong thing.
Yeah, shame on you.
Because, the first half of the film, I was like, you know what, this is a really solid cop thriller. I liked this. And I honestly thought the scene at the stadium was going to be where the movie ended.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's where it ends with that pull-out shot. I was like, okay, that was a cool movie. And then there was a whole half hour after it, and that extra bit is what made me love the movie.
Okay.
Because I thought that chase scene through the stadium was great, but then everything afterwards I thought was just really amped up and gave depth to this character. And well, you know, the movie comes under fire for being a very right-wing movie to extents.
Yeah.
It never felt like propaganda to me.
It definitely suffers a bit in today's context as a movie of its time. You know, the kind of, you know, casual white guy racism that, like, it's okay because I hate everyone. Like, no, that, like, in today's context, that's still not okay.
Yeah, and actually, one thing I had to say about that too, because like when at first, you know, they're like, what does he think of Mexicans? And you know, and like he'd give some racist response, but then he'd wink.
Yeah.
Like he didn't actually believe any of it, but he kind of has this reputation, so he's going along with it. So like there's some blurred lines too about it. Like, was Callahan actually racist, or does he just have this reputation because he legitimately just hates fucking people?
Right.
All that man likes is his gun and his hot dogs.
That first that hot dog sequence where he interrupts the bank robbery, because it was the early 70s and the blood that they use essentially it either was or looked a lot like ketchup anyway, that when Callahan, you find out, was shot in that, like, I'm thinking the whole time that he just spilled his hot dog on himself. He's like, damn it, I got mustard, I got a little ketchup on my pants.
Well, fun fact, I did watch some clips from the other films. Harry Callahan would never eat ketchup.
Okay. He's a mustard only guy.
There's a scene in, I think, Magnum Force, the next one, where you know, there's another cop going. He's like, nothing faces you, Callahan. Like, you've seen rapes, you've seen murders, you've shot people. You know, all this evil shit, and nothing bothers you. He's like, I would say nothing bothers me. The one thing that I can't stand is how you can stand there and eat a hot dog with ketchup on it.
Are you sure he's not from Chicago, then?
He might be. So that amuses me. But no, what was funny about that scene for me was that he took a bite of his delicious-looking hot dog. That hot dog looked amazing. And then he went out there and did his thing and shot it. You know, shot the robbers. And then they do the close-up of him, and he continues to chew. It's like, you just had that hot dog in your cheek salivating. Gross.
And the first time we see him too, when he walks up onto that rooftop pool, he's chewing, and I don't know if there's deleted scene backstory or if it just became a character.
It's just
thing.
Eating another hot dog, man. He eats every meal at that place.
I noticed him chewing the first time that we see him, and then like seeing him later working on his hot dog as he's like.
However, I have to say that hot dog scene is very telling about the character, because you get a couple simple things from him, and they pepper these throughout the movie, and they don't beat you too hard over the head with it. He's a simple dude. You know, he goes to this hot dog stand for practically every meal, probably because he doesn't go home very much.
You want the lunch or the dinner? Doesn't matter. I get the same thing for every meal.
He's a man of simple tastes, and honestly, like, there's not many meat eaters I know who don't enjoy a good hot dog. They comment later on about like how frugal he is, where, you know, he doesn't want to rip his $30 suit.
I also loved that, like, you know, in the 70s, like $30 for a pair of slacks was a lot of money, that you don't want to mess those up.
You know, it's funny, just knowing his character, it probably is a lot of money to him.
Yeah, well, I think back then, that's probably the equivalent of like a $70-$80 pair of slacks.
Yeah, and he's gonna wear those ragged until he absolutely has to buy a new pair.
I have one pair of pants. You are not ripping these pants.
But like, what I liked about that scene though was that, you know, he noticed the robbery, and he was gonna call the cops, and he was gonna let them do this thing, and he doesn't get involved until he feels like he absolutely has to.
Yeah.
And then he just goes out.
And he also didn't panic. He didn't go into cop mode where he's like, you know, like he's just like, I want to eat my hot dog, man. This is my lunch break.
Yeah. And then like,
but He's not going to let it go. He's not the kind that's just like, no, I'm off the clock. You guys deal with it. But it was like all right, I have to do this.
Yeah. And then, like, that's when you get the infamous bullet speech.
Right.
Which is great. It's funny to me because it feels so rehearsed. Where I can't help but think about Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction, where he's just I just thought it was some cold shit to say to a mother before I pop a cap in his because he kind of had a smile on his face afterwards, and
right.
I gots to know.
Click.
And like I just kind of got this feeling from him that like. I don't want to say necessarily he enjoys his job, but, like, he knew he was in a position of power and he could f*** this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I don't know. Like, while we don't learn a lot about his character, there's a lot about his character we can infer throughout the movie.
And I think one of the biggest issues that I have with the film, not really with the film at all, but I always had an issue with Callahan in that he's a good representation of that kind of over-the-top machismo male figure that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like this glorifying the charming asshole. And charming is not the right word, but there's like
because he is not a very charming character.
But there's like, oh, he's so cool because he doesn't care,
But here's the thing: I never got the idea that he didn't care. I got the feeling that he's been on the job for so long that things don't faze him anymore. Yeah. But the fact that I feel like almost to a fault, he cares too much.
Sure,
he cares too much about the people he's trying to protect, where he's willing to risk his job. He's willing to risk anything because he feels that's what's right. And how pissed off he got that they're concerned more about the fact that he didn't read this guy's Miranda rights, even though they've got all the proof they need that this guy's a mother.
Right.
And I have to say, like, I've seen clips, bits and pieces of all the Dirty Harry films growing up because my dad liked them quite a bit, and I know how violent these films can get. I've never seen anything as shocking as seeing a 14-year-old girl pulled out of a shallow grave as I did that scene where it's all silhouetted by the skyline, and he realized he was too late. And like I said, if anything, I think he cares too much. And the fact that he's willing to run on foot to payphone to payphone, which is very Batman villain-esque. When most cops, I feel like, or at least cops in movie cops, which are more like his partner who doesn't want to climb over the fence and like, I'll find another way around, who would just do it that way. Like, I can 100% see where you're coming from because I feel like the type of characters that I usually don't like in a movie are directly related to the way this character is portrayed, but I feel like the filmmakers, while I would never say this movie is a subtle movie at all because it's on the nose, they chose to be subtle enough with his character where he wasn't a complete jerkoid.
I agree, and what I guess I should refine my statement to say that he doesn't care about society's expectations of him. But no, it's very clear that his motives are out of caring for protecting people, and there's a weird amount of peeping Tom sequences with Callahan, but that's a separate issue altogether.
I was hoping we could talk on that. Well, we eventually have to go back to that because that abuse got to be that entire sequence. So
which one of the men? Like, there were so many, like, catching him looking in. There was the
was it Naked Marge? The guys affectionately call or something like that. They're like, hey, he's peeping on Naked Marge.
And the editors like they cut back to her. It was that I was watching it with a buddy of mine. And it's like, yep.
That sequence was fantastic too because here's just a random gaggle of dudes who are in the alley. They were probably gonna go peep on her.
But no, now we gotta
he's not part of our
her.
group. He's not part of the group.
He hasn't paid his dues. And then as the partner comes in, like, that's a cop, leave him alone. He's like, no, they're just trying to do what's right. Go ahead, beat me up.
No, it's like, he's such a weird character at times. And we're like, I kind of see what you mean, though, about, like, the not caring. Like, when I kind of liked the continuous joke throughout the movie of why do they call you Dirty Harry? It's almost like how do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Yeah.
Like everyone's answer's a little different, and then when he finally gives his
how I
reason,
got these
like,
scars.
Yeah, and he's going up on the cherry picker, and he's like, it's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. And he says it just so casually. He's not like, this is my city type thing. And then I like that he goes up there, and the guy's like, you're gonna try to talk me down, aren't you? And he's like, no, I just don't want you to take me out with you. And I just like I can kind of see how he's just so casual and it's like whatever,
throw him off.
What fun fact about that sequence though, that is the first that is one of the first things that Clint Eastwood has ever directed for a studio.
Oh, interesting.
Don Siegel, the director, who was a good friend of his and was Clint Eastwood's mentor for directing, was sick with the flu for that sequence. So Clint Eastwood's like, I can do it. Let me direct it. And then there's also a couple, like, because he did an indie film before that called Play Misty for Me, and there was a marquee for it up in the film, which I thought was fantastic.
I missed that. Nice.
Like when he go into the hot dog place, when he comes out of the hot dog place, there's a marquee in the background that says Play Misty for me. I'm like, you sly dog.
I am sure there is some influence taken for that jumping off the building scene in Lethal Weapon.
Oh, I'm 100%
with that,
sure,
like, get up there and throw them off their game, confuse them enough to distract them from what brought them up there in the first place.
Here. Hate you to leave without me.
Hey, what are you doing?
Oh, no.
What are you doing?
See this key? Bye-bye.
You're crazy!
Now, you can jump if you want to, but you'll be taking me with you, and that makes you a murderer. Okay? Come on, let's go back.
You bastard!
Yeah, you'll be killing a cop. Now,
yeah, I'll be killing a psycho nut cop!
Yeah, a psycho, but I'm still a cop. You coming in? Come on, I'm going in.
You, I'm jumping!
Do you really want to jump? Do you want to? Well, then that's fine with me. Come on, let's do it. Let's
Wait a minute!
do it.
What?
I want to do it. I want to do it.
What do you mean?
There's a featurette on the Blu-ray that I have for the film because I was actually I came across the Dirty Harry films in a $5 bin at a dollar store.
Nice.
And they had all of them there, and it's like, well, you know, for $10 each,
right.
Like, because it came in a 2-pack, and I was like, what the hell, right? And there's a featurette on there with a bunch of action directors talking about how much they love these films. And I think Shane Black, who either wrote and directed Lethal Weapon, he's on there talking about it.
Okay.
So I'm 100% convinced that there's some, like, any type of, like, cop film that's not a traditional cop film, you know, where the guy who's kind of goes by his own rules has a debt to pay to Dirty Harry to some way.
What? Any cop that gets hauled into the commissioner's office for his antics?
Ooh, it's that new show about the policeman who solves crimes in his spare time.
Crank it, Homer.
You busted up that crack house pretty bad, McGonagall. Did you really have to break so much furniture?
You tell me, Chief. You had a pretty good view from behind your desk.
McGonagall eases the pain.
You're off the case, McGonagall.
You're off your case, Chief.
What does that mean exactly?
It means he gets results, you stupid
That's
Chief!
what I love so much about Last Action Hero, which I just showed Amanda, was just like it's a movie that Schwarzenegger produced, making fun of his own movies.
A love letter to the genre.
And I love that, like, the first time you meet the police commissioner, he's yelling and all the windows break in the police.
Have you seen So I Married an Axe Murderer?
No, I have not. I've been wanting to.
It's very apt for this conversation. The male support role, the buddy role, is Anthony. I can never I never know how to pronounce his name. LaPaglia?
Anthony Lobsterbisque.
Yes, Anthony Lobsterbisque, who plays a cop who wants so badly to be the Callahan of the top, but it's like he's stuck in this, like, you're always seeing him filling out paperwork and doing, and his boss, the department, the commissioner, whatever the title is played by Alan Alda. No, not Alan Alda. Alan Arkin.
Oh my! I love Alan Arkin. Unrelated, but I just watched that movie Going in Style, mainly because he was in it.
And he's so nice and gentle, and Anthony's character has a problem with that because he wants to be hauled into the office to be chewed out for his screwball antics, and he's like, "Oh, I understand your feelings, and I want you to be happy, but you have to understand paperwork is a very important part of our job."
I hear from the boys upstairs you've been sticking your nose in a Ralph Elliott case.
Well, yes, Captain.
Don't yes, Captain, me! Stay out of this. This is strictly homicide.
Yeah, but Captain, I got this friend. Right?
We all got these friends. I'm warning you, Giardino. Back off, Italian boy. Keep away from this one. It's too big for you.
Wait a minute, Captain. Wait a minute. Trust me on this one. I know what I'm talking about. What's the news?
Oh, you want to hear the news? Well, here's the news. It seems that the old lady that confessed to the murder of Ralph Elliott has also confessed to a couple of other murders.
I knew she would. I knew it.
Right. Well, she's confessed to the murders of Abraham Lincoln, Warren G. Harding, and Julius Caesar. She's a nutcase. A nutcase.
Oh, my God. I gotta go.
You screw this one up, pal, and you'll be writing parking tickets for the rest of your life. You got that?
Captain, I won't let you down. Good for you. That was so much better.
Yeah, you like
really
it?
terrific. It was fantastic.
I don't know. The beginning felt pretty good.
Yeah, it was great.
I thought I'd get too much in the end.
No. It was really terrific.
Yeah.
I'd really like to discuss this, but I gotta go save a life.
Let me work on it. I'll work on it.
Work on it because it was terrific. And honestly, it was such a big improvement. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.
In my head, I picture like Alan Arkin playing like the coach from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where he's like, "Get in here," and he's like folding the guy's jacket while he's like yelling at them, like he can't shed his good guy. Oh, that sounds fantastic. I've never seen that movie. I don't know.
It's really funny.
Isn't Mike Myers?
Yeah,
I don't know why, because normally I like a lot of Mike Myers' early stuff. But for some reason, I always saw him on the cover, and I was like, I don't know if I want to see this movie. But I think
it's his haircut.
Poster.
It's his haircut. I think.
Yes,
that was
his
early or mid '90s. That haircut.
Yeah, what is that? The Eric from Boy Meets World haircut?
The butt cut.
By a show of hands, how many people are tired of Eric? Cool. It's ubiquitous.
Yep. No, I definitely have to see that now because I will watch Alan Arkin in anything because he's fantastic.
It's very quotable. Extremely quotable.
And that's what we're about here on the Shameless Picture Show.
All right, well, we'll have to put So I Married an Axe Murderer on your shame list as well.
Let me add both of those or I will forget. I'm not going to add them to Letterboxd yet because that's a lot more work. But
I got to log in and click a link.
Yep. So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Nadia.
That'd be a good double feature of Serial Mom.
Yeah.
Which I just got to show Amanda earlier this year because I love that movie. So one thing I was looking at, as I do, I try to write notes. And one thing I thought was interesting because this is one of the first roles that Eastwood had. Not the first, but one of his first big roles where he was not playing a cowboy.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. You dig. When?
Because he had an interesting trajectory. He was on like a TV show called Rawhide or something like that. I don't know. I might be getting the name of the show wrong, but he played a cowboy, a good guy cowboy on some TV show. And he was getting no traction. He was under contract for some studio. And then he went off to do a bunch of spaghetti westerns, a bunch of spaghetti westerns with Sergio Leone. and he became a huge fucking star. So this was one of the first times since then he has not played a cowboy. Well, what I find really interesting, because I don't want to say the politics in this film were not intentional, because they definitely were. But what I thought was interesting was, Clint Eastwood usually played a cowboy with no rules, who could go by vigilante justice. You wronged me, I'm going to fucking shoot you. And he's still kind of playing that character, but now he's playing it in a world where he has to follow the rules. And it's I don't know, I find it really interesting.
The rules.
He is the rules.
Yes, he was on Rawhide.
All right, I was right. And what I find also interesting about them is, he's a, for lack of a better term, let's call Harry Callahan a cowboy. He's a cowboy who's not really allowed to be a cowboy anymore. Totally. But he's all about the life of the hunt. He doesn't go home much. He eats hot dogs for every meal. He doesn't seem like he changes much.
He has the one pair of pants.
The 44 Magnum was actually a gun for hunting.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's always hunting. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's some interesting
elements
working there.
And I think the framing it as a cowboy movie set in LA Police Department is apt.
You gotta tell him what you saw, Billy.
But I'm so scared, McGarnagle.
You gotta do this one for me, Billy. McGarnagle.
Okay. For you, McGarnagle.
Well, McGarnagle, Billy is dead. They slit his throat from ear to ear.
Hey, I'm trying to eat lunch here.
The one thing I thought was interesting, because even, like I said, the film gets a lot of flack for being right-winged, for its casual racism and
gun love.
Gun love, and the film is, I don't know, it's I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. It's quirkily. It's in a very quirky way homophobic, because they don't deny like when Clint Eastwood's walking through the park and he meets that gay man, and like instead of being like, he could have very easily Harry Callahan could have very been easily like, I don't agree with your ways or something.
Sure.
Like he gave him, but he never like. I don't know. I can't really think what I'm trying to say.
And I think there is something to be said. I don't think it's entirely redeeming, but there is something to be said for the fact that the killer is racist and homophobic. It does, from the writing and movie creation standpoint, it does in some way put a value judgment on, if the killer thinks those things are good, then we, the filmmakers, think it's bad.
No, and it's
there's
interesting
something to that.
It's interesting too, because like, while I can definitely see the comments that the film is right wing, it also seems like it's taking thoughts from both sides, because while the killer is racist and homophobic, when he gets out of jail, he's wearing his peace belt buckle, and he's got this is San Francisco in the late 60s, so it's a very free-loving liberal time, and here he is with his long hair, with which is kind of the badge of honor for that hippie lifestyle, along with the belt buckle and everything, and he, it's interesting for that reason, and the whole idea of you should care more about the rights of the victim over the rights of the accused, I think is something that both sides can agree on. So it's interesting, because while it does have its politics, it's not like, to me, it's a little more grayed out about necessarily which side it leans more heavily on.
Sure, yeah. And quite frankly, I think most of my issues with it are less that there was ill intent or something was poorly done, and more of just it is flat out a victim of its time.
Yeah.
You could make the same film today with the tact and sensitivity of our modern issues and make a very compelling thought piece out of it.
Well, it's funny, the movie at the time, even though it was a product of its time, was still pissing people off. Because I think the film was nominated for some Academy Awards.
Oh, okay.
Give me 1 second. Let me confirm this. Dead air. All right. I can't find like a list of its awards, but it definitely was nominated at the 44th Academy Awards. But even then, the film was pissing people off. It sparked debate over issues ranging from police brutality to victims' rights and the nature of law enforcement. Feminists in particular were outraged by the film, and at the 44th Academy Awards protested outside the theater, holding up banners which read messages such as "Dirty Harry is a rotten pig."
Okay.
So even at the time, it was pissing people off.
Yeah. Oh, and like Tate, we mentioned the peeping Tom sequences.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is some meat to these social issues in the film, but those peeping Tom sequences they don't really add much to the story, and they're extremely tactless. Had that been contributing to something, had that been saying something socially, one way or another, even if it's not something that I agree with, if it was trying to say something, that's one thing. But because it was just this like casual, hey, let's throw boobs into the movie, like that's one example of how where I think the film failed by today's standards.
No, completely agree. Yeah. I'm going through my notes. Is there anything else you want to bring up, Nick, while I'm going through my notes?
Oh, yes. We were talking about the killer a bit, and
Andy Robinson.
One thing that I appreciated about the portrayal was when he was setting up for, I think it was the first, the attempted attack in the park when he was up on the rooftop and the helicopter was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that he looked genuinely freaked out and afraid.
I did too.
A lot of times you see that killer role, especially the crazy ones, and they just don't care. They're in their own world, and they either think they're so smart that they know they're going to get away, or they're so crazy that they're not worried about it. And it really made the character compelling to me when he was like, yes, I'm going to do this and I'm crazy, but oh God, I could, let's get out of here.
It never felt like he 100% had a plan. Like, it felt like he was always kind of making it up as he went along.
Yeah.
And one thing I loved about his performance was Andy Robinson was also a pacifist.
Oh, really?
Like in real life.
Nice.
And he was afraid of guns. So every time he'd shoot a gun or have to do something, they said he looked just like freaked out.
Yeah, which
they had to cancel shooting for a week for him so he can go do gun training just so he could look less freaked out. And I feel like him playing such an opposite character, and the fact that because they said in the script, the character is written as what you'd expect, big beefy man with little hair and the typical creepy schizoid. And here, this guy looks like he's young and pretty normal looking, all things considered.
If he was just walking down the street, you'd never go, boy, that dude was kind of creepy.
Yeah, and little things. It's like I love I don't love that he kidnapped the bus of children, but I like the way he was originally let's all sing some songs.
Yeah.
And then he started getting frustrated with them and yelling at them. That's he couldn't keep that going for very long, and his character is one of the things I really liked about the film. And
it's one of the things that elevated it, not the only thing, but one of the things that elevated it above all of the films that came after, clearly inspired by that film.
A couple other things I think the film does very well is I think I love the way it's shot. The cinematographer, let me see if I can remember what his name is. Bruce Surtees. He was one of those cinematographers who was kind of known as a master of darkness.
Okay.
Because as you can see when you watch the film, there's a lot of darkness to the film because that's what he liked. That's what he was interested in. Was not necessarily overlighting something. He wanted to seem realistic. And how many times you could tell that the outside scenes when
he's running from phone booth to phone booth, and
it's being lit very naturally with what available lights they have. And then the editing. Don Siegel began as an editor, the director.
Okay.
And like hell, he edited the montage sequence that began Casablanca.
Oh wow.
So he began as an editor, and I feel like because of that, he's thinking like an editor when he's shooting. And Carl Pingatore, who actually edited the film, I feel, because like while the later Dirty Harry films are obviously a lot more violent, this film felt more violent because of the way he cut the film.
Okay.
And I feel like the way it's shot and the editing and I'm having a brain fart for names, so I'm glad I have the pages pulled up. The Lalo Schifrin's score, like that jazzy score, I think all just kind of helped create a vibe that is unlike a lot of these other types of films.
I loved how in that bank robbery sequence with the following the hot dog, like it felt like for 5 minutes like a scene from Shaft or something. It was had that great like
yep
guitar wah pedal. Like I was waiting for the crash zooms in on the face across the street to see.
Can I say that there's not enough crash zooms in filmmaking anymore?
I saw some the other day that like clearly stood out to me. It's like, whoa.
Like a lot of times they're used to pay tribute, like
right.
Even though this man's name is now kind of on the hot button list of people not to say it, Quentin Tarantino uses them a lot because he's paying tribute to the 70s.
Right.
But I've always liked crash zooms better than, well, it depends on the situation. But I've always liked crash zooms, but I don't feel like I say them a lot anymore. Like, they're just like a really nice just snap zoom, like whoosh.
Yeah, you know where they were used really effectively, and if it was paying tribute, it wasn't exclusively for tribute's sake and made it something good, was the space sequences in Firefly, the TV show.
I have not seen that show, but Amanda keeps telling me she thinks I'd like it.
Many times when they're out, most of it either takes place on a planet or in the ship, but they'll cut to the emptiness of space to see a ship, far off floating, and they'll do these kind of like, crash zoom things with the camera that gives the space sequences a look that most space films and shows don't have. It took an unexpected camera technique and put it into an environment that you've seen 500 times before and really made it feel fresh.
Okay, I'm cool with that. Speaking of space stuff, it has nothing to do with Dirty Harry, but because of our Star Trek episode, I've gone back and started watching the original series.
Okay.
So I thought you might appreciate
that.
And then...
What's your take on the original series?
I've only 2 episodes in.
Okay.
But I think it's got a lot of charm.
Yeah,
to it.
That's a good word for it.
It's funny to me because, like, while the storylines are fine, I like the storylines quite a bit, and I think the characters are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's amusing to me, like, how nothing really feels like a spaceship. And it doesn't feel super, like, sci-fi, like, because it just feels like someone's bachelor pad, because it's all, like, crazy lighting and everything, whereas, like, Next Generation is so cold and sterile on the ship.
I really appreciated what the series Enterprise, which was the Scott Bakula-led crew, that one takes place between, like, our present, like, NASA program and... the original series, so it's somewhere in the middle there.
Like they didn't even have transportation or teleportation.
I think if I remember correctly, it's introduced in like the 3rd season. Like, we're starting to play around with this new tech, but they did a very good job, in my opinion, of getting us from what we know as space exploration and getting us to. That weird 70s vibe.
The last thing I'll mention before we go back and wrap up Dirty Harry about like Star Trek-y stuff, I think I mentioned it to you and you have Hulu. So I'm very impressed by Seth MacFarlane's show, The Orville.
It looked really interesting.
Well, originally when I heard about it, I thought, it's going to be Family Guy in space, and going to be more like, yucking it up than anything else. And while there is some of that, totally, because it's Seth MacFarlane, he's got comedy in his blood, it's a very loving tribute to Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
Where, like, yeah, there are jokes and everything, and the characters, and it's the character. It's just, it feels like they're jokes naturally coming from the characters and less like making fun of the situations, because all the situations they treat very seriously, and I think it finds a nice balance of having the type of plot lines and serious structure of the Next Generation, but those moments when you're watching Next Generation and you're joking around like about the way a alien's weird name or the way someone looks, instead of us saying it, they do.
Nice.
And it finds a nice balance, and I think you'd really appreciate it.
Cool.
Because, like I said, it is a very loving tribute to Star Trek.
Awesome.
And it's not like over the top crazy comedy like I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. Added to my shame list.
All right. First season's all up on Hulu. You can watch it whenever.
Excellent.
I'm going through my notes right now for Dirty Harry. Couple little things that I like that we don't necessarily need to talk too deeply into, but like I liked that at the end of the film after he killed Scorpio, he effectively threw his badge, which is now useless because he's into the water. And I feel like if they wouldn't have made sequels, it would have been a little more empowering of an image, because it kind of gave me the idea of like a cowboy who, once the bad guy is dead, the hero must hang up his spurs type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, now what is he going to go do? He's going to go sit in his probably one-room apartment, eat hot dogs by himself. Like,
well, there's...
Because without the hunt, he's got nothing.
I was reminded of more so when the way that you framed it, some of the stuff in A Farewell to Arms.
Okay.
I've
never read
rebirth imagery. So by being thrown into the river, it acts as like a hypothetical baptism.
Yeah.
A cleansing. That's not to say that that's what they intended, but it would be an interesting lens to look at that at again, especially considering that there are sequels.
Yeah. One thing that I also thought was really interesting, and it's an interesting tactic from the filmmakers to get us on Harry's side, is because unlike a mystery, where we don't know who the killer is and everything, and we don't know what's happening, we see everything Scorpio's doing, so it frustrates us more when justice isn't happening, because we know he's guilty, we know what he's done. And it's an interesting way for us to side with Harry throughout the entire situation. Like, the guy fucking did it. We saw it, it enrages the audience, and it, forces you to, even if you don't necessarily like Harry as a character, to be on his side because you want to see justice done.
Yep.
A little bummed out that there wasn't any sort of conclusion or anything with Harry's partner, Chico.
Oh, sure.
Like, we saw that he wanted to potentially quit the police force, but then, it never really went back to him, and I felt like there wasn't any closure with Chico.
Well, even his introduction and inclusion in the earlier part of the film, it always felt a little off. Like, they didn't tell his story properly, but they also weren't just using him as, the prop to accomplish something else in the film. It seemed clunky. There was stuff with his character that didn't have a place. There was stuff in there that character needed to do for the character's sake that didn't. That there were several problems with
I feel like it was either once a longer movie or something. I just feel like there's something off about that character. Yeah. And I never really got to know him enough to decide whether or not I liked him. I feel like I did, but I don't know.
Yeah, I did, but I have
him
that same sense.
He didn't do anything wrong to make me dislike him. But
I liked him only because he didn't actively piss me off.
Yeah, he didn't actively piss me off. And Chico seems like he was a good dude. He cared about his job. He wanted to know why he was called Dirty Harry. I get that. But you ready for something that is really amusing? This movie was written long before Clint Eastwood was involved with it. And it was written as a vehicle for wait for it, Frank Sinatra. That's who they wanted to play Dirty Harry.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
But old Blue Eyes turned it down because he didn't like the politics in it, and he thought it was too violent.
Okay.
Wow. There's also there's a list of other people that it was written or that they wanted to have play it, but none of them are surprising as Frank Sinatra. Like John Wayne was offered the role, and Robert Mitchum, which could have been really interesting. Sure. Steve McQueen, which he'd later go on to make his own version called Bullet. Yep. Which I think
he just had a car instead of a Magnum.
Yeah, which I think is probably a better movie.
I don't disagree, but I'd have to watch them side by side to really weigh in.
Burt Lancaster's, Paul Newman, so
right.
Marlon Brando at one point, like that would have been interesting. But yeah, like to me, like Frank Sinatra sticks out. I'm like, what? Really? I can't.
Well, I wonder how was it? Did the movie, was it intended to have a different tone then, or
that I don't know.
Or were they casting with the thought of it being like not the traditional choice, and we'll see how, like, parts of it I get, and parts of it I'd be like, oh, I can't really quite place that in my brain.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking, because originally the movie's called Dead Right, and it was supposed to be about a hard-edged New York cop.
Okay.
And who's trying to catch a sniper.
Okay.
And originally it was going to be they also offered it to George C. Scott, and he flat out told him no. At one point, Sidney Pollack and Irvin Kershner were set to direct, and that would have changed the tone a lot too. But like, I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of is if they thought let's cast someone no one would expect and see how it happens. But like, I just can't picture Frank Sinatra being a bad. Like, I'm pulling up Frank Sinatra's filmography right now. I want to see it. I feel like I've only ever seen him do like comedy or like easygoing characters.
Yeah. Though you never know when a shift like that is gonna result in something incredible, like what popped into my head just now, and it's probably because I mentioned it in the last episode. Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That's a fair point, too.
Like, before you saw that movie, if you're like, yeah, they were considering Jim like.
Alrighty then.
For this role, like, you're like, that would have been a very different movie. But,
or like, no, exactly. I'm trying to think of another weird example like that. Or like, once again, Quentin Tarantino wanted to cast Adam Sandler as the Jew Bear in Inglourious Basterds. Nice. Like, that would have been weird.
Yeah.
But like, did he see something we didn't?
Right.
So I have.
But Adam Sandler went on to do like Spanglish and some other like very dramatic roles.
Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up Frank Sinatra's filmography at the time, and I'm looking to see what he was doing in 1971, which is funny because he had a big gap from 70 to 1977, so apparently he wasn't doing anything. He did in 1970, he did a Western called, are you ready for it? It's a comedy Western called Dirty Dingus McGee.
Well, I'll be. They got the whole army looking for me. Me, Dingus McGee.
Frank Sinatra in his wildest role as Dirty Dingus McGee.
And they wanted this man to play Dirty
Somebody
Harry.
Just got a new screen name.
Dirty Dingus McGee. So they wanted Dirty Dingus to play Harry Callahan.
Well, they figure he was already dirty.
Yeah. Like, it's illogical. And then he played himself in Cannonball Run 2. Fun fact.
Okay. I haven't seen it.
Seems like a weird choice to me, but anything else you got to add to
my last note, and it's small, but God, I love the film stock from this era.
Oh my God, me too. Like, there's just a texture to it.
Oh, the color and the texture, it is so late 60s, early 70s.
Like, I love the look of these older films, and like, if I could ever shoot on film, I'd want to find out. I'd want to try to recreate the film stock look. Because, like, that's the thing. Like, when I watched a lot of these old movies, like, even when I was shooting shorts, and I would show my cinematographer older movies and be like, this is how I want to look. And I know what you can't recreate film stock. But, like, when I'd say the look and the vibe of this film, they'd focus on the wrong thing, and the lighting was always really strange because, like, they weren't focusing on what I was focusing. I feel like the way that these film stocks captured light is a big thing.
Sure.
Is a hard thing to recreate.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like, or, like, even, like, The Warriors, the way that film looked because of the film stock they shot on, and that's one thing I miss about when people would shoot on film was different film stocks would give you different look.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everyone's shooting on reds and, Phantom Black Magics and whatnot, and, like, all the films kind of look the same. Even if they're colored and lit differently, a lot of them look
the look is being
the same.
Created in post often.
Mm-hmm.
With color grading
and there are some cinematographers and directors who really know how to work with digital cinematography and make a look their own.
Yeah, I looked at the new Star Trek movies, the J.J. Abrams ones, that have a very you can dislike the look. That's valid. It's controversial, but it doesn't look like other films.
Yeah. Yeah. No, completely. And no, I'm a sucker for old film stocks, and part of me wishes like I could get better at learning what each one is, and kind of like, because I'm such a nerd. Like when I watch something, I want to know like, oh, they shot this on Tri-X,
right.
Such and such, and oh, this is a Panavision lens. I'm such a nerd that I wish I could tell that type of. And, like that's why I usually watch to the end of the credits so I can get some idea of like, oh, they used Panaflex and
right.
Shit like that. Now, I don't do as much for newer movies because it's not...
They shot it on a red. They shot it on a black magic. They shot,
Yeah, like, oh, this film was shot on Super 16? That's cool. Like, I don't know.
I really liked I hadn't heard it, your anecdote when we were discussing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of them dragging the film through the dirt.
Yeah.
Just to beat up the film.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Well, I can't think of anything else I gotta talk about for Dirty Harry.
Yeah, right? I think this anything Clint Eastwood I think is a bit of a love letter to my dad and the kind of movies that he would watch when I was a kid.
Me too.
A lot of the westerns, but then every once in a while you'd break out into my dad's a big Clint Eastwood fan, and so I hadn't seen it recently, and it was nice to watch again. But it gave me the warm fuzzies.
I think both of our dads kind of viewed themselves as a Clint Eastwood character, even if they weren't. They honestly weren't, but I feel like there was something they can relate to.
Yeah.
But what next episode, Nick? I forgot. Are we doing Your next? Or are we doing The Godfather next? I don't remember which one we're doing next.
I believe we're doing Your next. If I don't have my list in front of me, but I believe Your.
Okay. I don't remember if it was... I got the... I know we want to do The Godfather. At some point we want to do Your. Yeah. We want to do our double feature of Super Mario Brothers and Masters of the Universe, which I'm so excited for.
So, yeah, we got the next 3 planned out.
I already watched The Godfather. I'm probably going to have to rewatch it, though.
Totally. Well, we were pushed back because of the solo episode, so we could do Godfather next and push Your off.
Well, either way, both films are films I haven't seen, so we seem to be checking a lot of stuff off my shame list. That's all right. We'll do a couple off Yours next, then.
Yeah, there you go.
Either way works for me. I'm probably still going to have to rewatch Godfather or do some research on it, because I watched it when I had friends over, and I wouldn't say I forgot it, but...
You can't pay quite as close. You can't watch it with the same intention.
Yeah, so if anything, I might have to go back and just watch key scenes and scrub through it on Netflix.
All right. Well, coming up next, either Your or The Godfather. Both films, I think, equal in the pantheon of film history.
Yeah.
Just as important to our culture.
If I can grab myself a copy of Your this week, it'll be Your. If not, Godfather. Your
will be terrific.
Yep. All right, Nick.
Well, as always, this is a real joy, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Take it easy, everybody.
Bye-bye.